Are you looking for an Arboricultural Impact Assessment for your planning permission as part of the BS5837 process? Has a tree officer asked for more information? Or maybe you're ahead of the game and this is something you know you're going to need, so you're asking for it now. Well, you're in the right place, because Arboricultural Limited can help you with all of that. We can assist you to get your planning permission. The Arboricultural Impact Assessment, the AIA, comes after we've had the tree survey done and produced a tree report, and that would be used to produce a tree constraints plan showing not just the value of the trees but the constraints. The three main constraints are the root protection area, the canopy spread, and the tree height to inform shading. But there are other factors as well: the tree's condition, the age, the topography of the ground, and the species characteristics. So there's a bit more than just the three main constraints that most poor or average tree consultants or ecologists would provide for you. There's a lot more to it than that, and this can help shape a better application that will be more favourably received by the tree officer at the planning department. So then we're looking at the impacts of the buildings or proposed buildings on these trees, as well as the future impact of these trees on any future building. So we've got to look at the constraints now in terms of the root spread and crown spread and shading, but also the future constraints when the crown develops, where the roots are likely to go if the tree's got a lot of growth potential, and the shading now and in the future as it gets bigger. So this has a bearing on the impact on the foundations now and in the future, the impact of branches on guttering and brickwork and roof tiles, that's got to be considered, and the shading. So you've got to look at the layout of the building and ensure that it's got adequate natural light, and you've got to look at the light provision in terms of having enough windows, and enough windows in the right aspect of a room. Also, you can look at skylights or roof lights, and maybe patio doors to maximize the light intake, and also ambient light. So it's not just direct sunlight where you're looking at the shading quadrant of the constraints plan, but also the ambient light, whether you've got trees too close to a building and it's going to create a oppressed atmosphere. And there are still benefits to having trees very close to buildings, so that's got to be considered as well. So it's putting a balanced approach of not just the root protection area, the crown spread, and the shading now, but future, and also taking into account the ground conditions. If there's a retaining wall or a change in levels or a different soil type or existing building that's been knocked down, even if it's within the root protection area, it's unlikely that there'll be roots there, so you can mitigate for that. You can also look at this point at whether you're going to need other things in a method statement, which will come later, in terms of a different foundation design, a no-dig construction technique, which would either incorporate impermeable surfacing or possibly a permeable surfacing, like a geogrid or a geocell, where the load is there's not only a no dig, but there's an effect that will reduce the compression of loads onto the root zone in terms of pedestrian loads or even vehicle loads. So we are really digging down into what the impacts of this proposed development are, whether it can be changed to move them further away from the tree constraints, or if not, what measures need to be put in place. And that will feed into the method statement where you're actually putting these measures in place. So it's a very, very important step, ideally done early in the process with a view to maybe changing the design as part of the design process, moving it further away or adapting it. It's not always possible. Sometimes due to site constraints, that's the only way the design can be laid out. So then we have to think innovatively with alternative foundation designs and no dig construction solutions, and maximizing light yield due to constraints of shading and blocking of natural light. I'm not going to say it's always possible, but it's usually something's possible, and it might involve slightly more cost or a change to the design, but we normally think that we can get you to what you want, which is your planning permission. And beyond there, we can then do the supervision. So we'd start with the tree survey and the report to do your Arboricultural Impact Assessment, largely determined by the tree constraints plan. We would use that to produce the method statement and a tree protection plan, and then provide you with the arboricultural supervision going on into the build to the completion. So from the concept to the construction to the completion, a complete. If that's of interest to you, click the link below, fill in your details, and we'll get in touch and find out just how we can assist you to achieve that.